All right, here we go with part B of the trail elevation question. In this one, we have to go through the entire set of elevations, so the entire array that they're giving us, array of ints. And each time we're going to do the difference between the one we're on and the next one. So we're going to be using that I and I plus 1 indices. And basically, if the difference is greater than or equal to 30 or less than or equal to negative 30, because we went down, then it's considered a big change. And then if there's three or more of those changes, then we return, I think, true that it is difficult. So in the example, they say this one is difficult because if we count the changes, so if we look here, the changes that are greater than or equal to 30 or less than or equal to negative 30. So these big changes, there's four of them. So this is considered difficult. All right, and so these numbers come from, like this 50 comes from subtracting marker's position 1 from marker's position 0. This 45 would come from doing marker's position 2 minus marker's position 1. So the general version of this, if you follow the pattern, is we're going to do I plus 1 minus I. And actually the order there doesn't matter because you'd either get 50 or negative 50, but either way that's considered a big change. But I guess code-wise to match what they have here, it would be markers I plus 1 minus markers I. Okay, so I'm just going to make a loop for I that goes from 0 all the way to 1 less than the length, right? So normally we just go I less than like the length of the array. And that would go from like, because the length here is 13, so we would normally go from 0 to 12. But because I don't want to do 12, because if I do 12, if I do I here, then there is no I plus 1 out here. It'll be an array index out of bounds. So I'm going to loop from length minus 1. Okay, and each time I'm going to subtract these. And then if that, so this gets kind of tricky because it either can be greater than or equal to 30, or that value can be less than or equal to negative 30, right? Because it could be a change that goes down far, right? So if either one of those are true, I'm going to increase a count that's keeping track of how many big changes there are. And then at the end, we'll just do an if to see if we have three or more big changes, then we return true. Okay, so hopefully that sketches out the algorithm for us pretty good. We just need a single loop and then do this subtraction. Okay, so first thing we're going to need is just a count of how many big changes. So we're in our is difficult method here. And again, we don't have anything passed in. We are going to loop through this array, which is like kind of a global array. It's outside any of the methods, so we can access it in the different methods. All right, so I'm going to do int count, which is 0. And then I'm going to do for int I equals 0 because we're going all the way through this time, except I guess the last one. So the name of that thing is markers, and I'm doing that length minus 1, as we talked about already, and then plus plus I. And then I'm going to do the difference again. So just like we talked about, we're going to do markers I plus 1 minus markers I. So the array, the next one, the next index, so I plus 1 minus markers position I. That's the difference. And then if it's a big change, so if the diff is greater than or equal to 30, or it goes down a bunch, so that would be less than or equal to negative 30, then we do increase the count, right? Because we're just counting the big changes. So that loop will count the big changes. And then if there's three or more big changes, we return true. So if the count is greater than or equal to 3, I want to return true. It is a difficult trail. Not for bumpkins, right? Only serious hikers should do it in that case. Otherwise, we return false because there's not a lot of big changes. So that hopefully implements the is difficult part of this trail elevation question. All right, hope that helps.